Welcome to the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent.
Steve, good afternoon. Welcome back. Friday
Hey,
at
Chuck.
4.
Pleasure to be back. I'm excited.
Sir, good stuff.
Excited.
How's the week been?
The week was busy but good. So,
Busy but
this
good.
you can be busy, but is it productive?
Busy and productive.
Two
Yeah.
different things. Two different things.
Yeah. Yeah, which is a great topic for today, right?
Yeah.
Time management. What do you think?
Okay. Here's my wise ass self coming out again. Okay. And before I get into this nonsense,
We
let
don't
me
have time for
say
this.
again, like I say every week, this is just two guys, unscripted. We don't know what we're going to say until we say it. We're not sponsored by anybody, so we're not tied to what we can and can't do. As long as it's legal, we're cool. So, okay.
Exactly.
So I just want to put that out there. Um, like everyone else, when I was young, way, way back when, and the dinosaurs roamed the earth, um, it was always, I want to get to my next birthday. I want to play with the bigger kids. It got to the point where I want to get 18 so I could vote, I could drive, I could drink, I could do all that stuff. Because back then the drinking age was 18. Now it's 21. And it's always I want to get out of high school because I'm the big man. I have a high school degree. But what we don't realize because we're young, stay young. Don't get old. Don't get. I mean, I know we have no choice because time goes by. Excuse me. But when you're young, enjoy your time. We all have some level of responsibility. I get that, and everybody's different. I don't want to get into what each person does, but enjoy your time. There is school time, there's work time, there's family time, there's whatever your time is, but enjoy it. Because when you get out of high school, the world gets real.
Yes, it
And if
does.
you can hide in college for a couple of years, like I did, when you get out, that world is still there. You're just you're just older with more responsibilities. And that's okay because we all need to grow up to some degree. And again, people are different and we won't go there. Um, but the one thing that we all have in common, regardless of who we are, where we came from, it doesn't matter. The one thing we all have in common is there are 24 hours in a day. No matter what you think, that's all you got. You're done. The question becomes, how are you using that time? There is so much time that we have to sleep, or we just get, you know, so beat down that we just collapse wherever we are. So you have to get X number of hours of sleep, and everybody, again, is different.
Yeah.
Um, but then there's time for family. There's time potentially for work, depending on what you're doing. There's time for school, depending on what you're doing. But how do you make the best use of that time? And there is no right or wrong answer because, again, everybody's different.
Yeah.
But the one thing, and we'll get into more stuff in a minute, but the one thing that I heard the other day, which I never heard before, but it makes perfect sense. And it's a little morbid, but when you're about to graduate life years down the road, the one thing that is so common among many people is the phrase, I wish I would have done,
Yeah.
but didn't.
Regrets. Yeah.
Regrets.
Regrets.
Biggest, biggest thing people say. So now let's bring it back to today. 24 hours in a day. What are you doing? And I don't want you to answer that question, but just I'm posing it out there. What are you doing today? Are you making the best use of today? And again, no right or wrong. You could be out playing. You could be out partying. You could be out sports, school, work. Everybody, again, playing with your kids, hanging out with your siblings. Again, no right or wrong. But what are you doing today to make the best use of today? Because
Yeah.
once today is gone, it's gone. You can always make more money. You can always buy new things, but you cannot replace time. And you don't
Facts.
want to make that statement at the end. I should have done.
Yeah.
Don't make that mistake.
Yeah.
There's
One of
a
the things that I used to get mad about, and not on the terms of, fist pounding, I hate this and that. I used to get frustrated at, I look at these successful people and I think they have the same amount of time that I do.
right.
How are they making it happen? How are these people able to take that 24 hours and do everything they're doing? Because they have help. They have other people helping them,
Yes.
you know?
So when you get to that point, and my hope is that everybody listening to this does get to that point, but until you get to that point, and through some people I work with, somebody made a comment in a meeting the other day. And in the company, like any place, there are some people that are more ahead, more successful than others. And that's just the way it is. But somebody who's in the company who's very successful made a comment that says, I have my calendar scheduled to do certain things because I have deadlines, I have other people I have to do things for. But what makes some people more successful, especially when you're still growing and it's you, there's no team around you.
Yeah,
If you have something to do at 1 o'clock, as the example, you have something to do at 1 o'clock and you have a meeting with somebody and they cancel, or something happens and now all of a sudden you have a free hour. What are you doing in that hour to help move your personal things forward, your business things forward? The successful people take every opportunity to do something.
right.
They don't hang. They don't watch television during the day. They don't play video games. They don't go to the bar. They don't go hanging out at the park. They don't. They're focused on what will help them get to the next level.
So true. Yeah.
And yeah, it is. And what I started to do is I put everything that I need to, and again, this is my way. Doesn't mean it's
Mhm.
the only way by any stretch. But what I do is everything I need to get done, I put in my Google Calendar. Everything. And if I have something today that I had on, but for whatever reason couldn't get it done, I will look to tomorrow for what can I take from tomorrow and do it today. So the task gets done sooner because you never know what tomorrow is going to bring.
Yeah.
So if I take an hour's worth of stuff from tomorrow and do it today, I now have that hour tomorrow for something unexpected that pops up. And that unexpected thing that pops up could be something that projects my personal, projects my career, projects me somewhere further ahead than I am today. Don't take
Right.
time for granted. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that you have to do something 24 hours a day. I'm not suggesting that. But define for yourself, is it the standard 9 to 5? Is it 10 to 3 because you sleep late and you want to go hang out? It's cool. But define a period of time in a day that will help you get to the next level, whatever that means for you.
Yeah. So I was going to challenge you a little bit on that and say, what do we do if it's someone like me who has to have a flexible schedule to where you don't know from day to day, you can't set a 9 to 5 or a 10 to 6.
Okay.
How do I how do I make that schedule? How do I make a calendar to where I do my daily routine and make sure it gets done? I'll just
Okay.
throw it at you.
So instead of saying I have, we'll call it a 9 to 5 day, instead of booking the entire 9 to 5 day, book 9 to 12. Gives you 5 hours from 12 to 1. So at 9 o'clock, if some unexpected thing comes in, shift the 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock, shift the 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock, shift the 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Because you now only booked part of a day, it gives you that extra time to shift things around. And try, where possible, to put the critical items one a day, maybe two a day. So if in your example, flexibility, you don't know what's going to happen, if you don't have a day chock full of must do, must do, must do, it's okay. Instead of three must do's, have one.
And that was my next comment was going to be, I think you nailed it. So if you have a 9 to 5 and you set it up and you make it work, but yet you have a flexible schedule like I have to have, and I can't make a 9 to 5, don't overload yourself with too many priorities to do every day.
Right.
But if you can take the items that you know you need to get done today,
Mm-hmm.
put them on the calendar,
Right.
set them with a reminder that you can continue to snooze it till you make it happen.
Right. Right.
I think
Now,
it's a good suggestion, right? I mean,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
now you might come 10 o'clock at night and you're snoozing three things you're supposed to do at 7 o'clock this morning, but
But if it's not well, okay, so let's go two ways. If it is a critical that I have to get done today and I can't because these unexpected happened, then I will extend past the 5 o'clock to make sure it gets done today because it had to get done today.
yeah,
But if it's a should get done today, as opposed to a must get done today, okay?
yeah,
But if it's a should get done and you can't today, you can't tomorrow, I set aside the first couple of hours of Saturday morning. Now, I'm not thrilled about that because I've done my 5 days and I want my weekend. I really do. But
yeah,
I will set aside just a couple of hours on Saturday morning to get that must have done. Because my personal definition of a must have done, and don't laugh at my definition, my definition of a must have says I have to get it done or somebody is going to come back and bite me in the ass because I didn't get it done.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
ramification of that happening may not be good. So that's my incentive to get it done ASAP so I don't have that issue lagging and I
yeah,
don't have to use my Saturday mornings.
yeah. One thing I like about you is that you have hard stops.
Yeah.
You flat out are like, I got this, I do this, I have to actually be here for this.
Mhm.
And I'm so thankful that I don't have to have hard stops, that I can be flexible, which gives me, unlimited number of hours within that 24 to do what I need to do to get done,
Mhm.
or I can be flexible with those items. But I'm thinking that I should maybe make something of a schedule daily with certain things to have hard stops so I can get on them. For example, this is probably the only hard stop I have is that Friday at 4. And then there are other podcasts that I do for everyone. Obviously, they're a hard start because I have to be here at the time that they have that podcast scheduled. But those are the only things that are really scheduled for me. Everything else is pretty flexible.
There's a lot to be said for flexibility. And coming from the other side of it, where I'm very scheduled, I would like to have some of that flexibility. But because I'm dealing with clients that may only have specific times that they can meet. So I
Yeah.
have to do that. There are meetings for work that I have to get done at certain times. But what I try to do in my calendar is I use Calendly for whatever that's worth. And what I did was I set 15-minute buffer time before and after every one of my meetings. So I know that if I have a 1 to 2, my next meeting can't start until 2:30 because it's 15 minutes when the first one ends, but and 15 minutes before the next one begins. So in that 30 minutes, I can make that unexpected phone call. I can send the unexpected email. I can go get lunch. I can do, so it gives me not as much as you have, but it gives me a little bit to get away from the computer, rest the eyes, stretch the legs, do what I need to do.
Right. Yeah, I think it's cool that we're both on the opposite ends of the spectrum, right? One, so flexible. One, there is no flexibility. And I think it's great that we compare
Yeah.
our schedules to each other because it's amazing how, if you're somewhere in the middle to where you're very strict with your schedule, but you have a little flexibility, you can take something that we have talked about and utilize it into your daily schedules or whatever. But you know, I like the fact that I'm not so rigid and strict on the schedule every day. However, how do I hold myself accountable to get
Right.
things done? And that's where I'm going with this, right? Now, how do I hold myself accountable when I have this flexibility and I don't put things on my calendar because I got to be flexible? Stuff.
So, so the answer to that is you need someone, doesn't matter who it is, you need someone who you say to them, I will get this thing done by tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And you make yourself accountable to them. Doesn't matter who it is. Could be a partner, could be a parent, could be a child, could be a stranger. Although strangers, they'll probably walk the other way and they'll like, what are you,
He
you
probably
talking to me?
wouldn't care.
Who are you? But
Screw that guy.
and it, yeah, and it doesn't have to be somebody who even knows what you're doing. It doesn't matter. So if you said to me, Steve, I'm holding myself accountable. I'm going to get this done by tomorrow at 3. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock, I'm going to send you a quick text message going, are you done yet? And if you really care, you will make sure you get it done. Now, yes, things come up. I get this. But for somebody to be that independent person who you trust and you want to maintain that trust, you're not going to want to let them down because the more times you miss your deadlines, that person now goes away and won't even talk to you. So
Yeah.
you've lost your accountability.
Yeah, I think it's a great word for it, right? Accountability. If you can't hold yourself accountable,
Right.
why are you a business owner, right? Why are you an entrepreneur? Why are you even
Correct.
doing
Correct.
this? Correct?
See, when you're in work, so I'll do this a couple of ways. When you're in work, you're accountable to your boss. And the reason you want to get stuff done is because at the end of the week, you get this thing called a paycheck. Really good thing to have. Really good. Okay. But when you're an entrepreneur, if you have a team, you're accountable to them because you need to bring money in, you need to pay the bills, you need to pay salaries. But if you're a solopreneur, so it's just you, the only thing you're accountable to is yourself.
Yeah.
And as one of my very good friends from years ago, his comment is, I eat what I kill. And what that means in English is he's sales. He has to go out and talk to so many people a day and close so much business. Because if he doesn't, there's no money coming in. How does he buy food? How does he pay the rent? How does he put gas in the car, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So he eats when he works with a client, and signs the contract. He performs, they pay him. He eats what he kills. And again, it's a little rough, but he eats based on the deals that he makes, is really what it comes down to. So you're accountable to yourself. And yeah, you could sit on the couch, you could drink a beer, you could do whatever you want to do. But in the end, if you're by yourself, who's paying your bill?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, a good point too would be you have daily goals. You can have, stretch goals. You can also have weekly goals to say, look, what did you accomplish this week for your paycheck?
Hmm.
How are you eating this week? How are you
Right.
going to eat next week? What's your month going to look like? So you can set those types of goals as well that make it a little bit easier for someone
Can.
like me who is flexible and doesn't have to worry about that accountability, but might need it, right?
Yeah. You could set a goal that says, I need to make $500 a week. You could set a stretch goal of 750 the week. Then you could dream and say, my ultimate is 1,000 a week. Well, you could do the 500 and be okay. But if one week you have a down week, now you're in trouble. So if you could stretch and get enough 750s, now that extra 250 between the 500 you need and the 750 you stretch to, that 250, if you put that away, bunch of weeks in a row, bunch of months in a row, now if you have a down week, you can tap into it. If you want to take a week off because you're mentally shot, you need a week, take the week. And the reason I say take the week, we all are under, whether we know it or not, want to admit it or not, we're all under a lot of pressure for
Yeah.
whatever you do. And again, everybody's different, but we're all under pressure from different people, different organizations, different everything. And unless we take that break, sooner or later, your body's going to wear down. Your brain's not going to work as quickly as it should because it's foggy. You're just so crazed.
Yeah.
So make that extra, do that stretch, put some money aside, then take a weekend off. Then take
Yeah.
the Friday and the weekend off. Then take Thursday, Friday, and the weekend off. But as long as you have that extra money on the side, do that. Give yourself a break. Get out of town. Take a drive somewhere. Take a short flight somewhere. Do something. But
Watch TV.
watch TV. Play video games. Drink a beer.
Play video games.
Yeah. But do something because you really do need to get away and take that break. You really do.
Yeah. That's my struggle right now is, yeah, maybe it's so flexible, but I'm utilizing my time
Mm.
the best I can, but I'm overworking myself because I don't want to miss something, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So now I'm not structured because I'm overworking, overstressed,
Hmm.
and now I need to find a way to take a step back, relax, take a break, analyze what I got going on for the week, for the month. Where my goals are for the year. It's the end of January. Then I make my goals of what I want to do for the first month of this year. And we talked about our goals at the end of the last year, and I'm right on par with what I wanted to
Good.
accomplish for January, and
Good.
I'm making it. I'm doing it,
Nice.
So
Good.
it's working. Holding myself accountable, you know.
No, years ago when I first started working, and I'm sure I said this before, one of my first managers said to me, nobody cares about your future more than you do. And
Yeah,
it's true.
it's true.
Nobody, no matter what they say, nobody cares more than you because they don't know you. They don't know
Yeah,
what you're going through. They don't know where you want to go. You can tell them, they can say they understand, but they don't because they're not you.
not me. Yeah, so true.
They're not. So
Yeah,
people can be the nicest in the world, but they're not in the same position. They're not.
yeah, yep,
I mean, I have two kids, you have two kids. We're both working, we're both entrepreneurs, but
yeah,
we're coming from different places.
Yeah.
And as much as we understand and help each other and do whatever we do, and this call is one example of that, there's still stuff that goes on behind the scenes that's personal, that should stay personal. I'm not saying anything else, but that's the difference of why nobody understands anybody else 100%, because there's always things that is internal that you don't want to talk about, can't talk about, don't want to talk about.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to touch on because you talked about, calendar and putting
Mm,
everything down on a calendar. I find I'm struggling now because I'm working on two calendars because I have my personal calendar. Now I have
hmm.
my Calendly calendar for work,
Okay.
for the business and for my podcast. And I'm struggling because now I'm checking two calendars all the time, you know,
Why can't you
and
combine them?
I got to figure that out, right? I got to figure out how do I combine these two to where,
Hmm.
Calendly can be my ultimate. Everything can work out of that and push it over into my Apple calendar on my phone.
In Calendly, I believe there is a way that you can select the calendar it goes to.
Okay.
If there is, you have the paid version?
No, that's the thing. I'm working on that. Yeah.
Okay.
I can
Even
look at the
that,
free version, see what's
but even
available,
not,
you know.
double check the settings. I
Yeah.
thought that there was a way that you could select which calendar it goes to. So it
Okay.
doesn't have to default to Google. It might be able to go somewhere else.
Okay.
So double check that.
I'm gonna have to check it because yeah, it's a little bit challenging for me because every day I'm checking my personal calendar and then I gotta make sure what do I have for my podcast,
Mhm.
each day. So,
Right.
it's just one of my little challenges that
Mm.
I'm working through. But
Yeah.
you know,
Okay. Yeah. Even Google though, I thought on the left-hand side there's an option for which calendars you want to sync into it. Double check
mm,
that too. I think it can go one or both ways. Yeah.
yeah, I'll look into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that little tip there. And if anybody that needs that tip, very thanks, Steve. We
Mm.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you're combining calendars or you have the same challenge I have, I'm open for any ideas of how
Mhm.
to make everything into one, because that's a little bit of a challenge for me on a daily basis is the two calendars.
Yeah, and if you're running
Yeah,
around and you're busy and you're trying to sync two calendars, you're going to spend more time trying to sync them than it's worth, and then you're going to start losing time to do other things.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to miss things on a calendar because they're very important.
Right.
Again, time management, right? You want to manage that time properly. You want to make sure that you're hitting your goals, your marks, and
Mhm.
in your case, if you have clients that you need to speak to, if you miss one of those, that can hurt.
You typically what happens, and I know it's not just to me, I know it's across the board. Typically what happens is if you miss a client appointment, you may not get a second chance with that person.
And I will tell you, you are correct. I missed a podcast one time.
Hmm.
Just it happened. It wasn't my fault.
Hmm.
It wasn't the calendar. It happened. It was a freak moment. And I reached out to this person to say, look, I apologize.
Hmm.
Things happen. We're human. I never got to interview that person on my
Hmm.
podcast. They never
Yeah.
reached back out to me. It never got scheduled. So moving
Not,
forward,
yeah, yeah.
just keep moving.
Not everybody is forgiving.
Not everybody's flexible. You
They're
know.
not.
Yeah.
They're not. You
Yep.
can only control your own actions. You cannot control somebody else. So
Right.
if you make a commitment to be somewhere or at some time, you really need to do everything you can to get and be there for that time.
Yeah.
Is
That's
there's a
true.
saying, I don't remember whether it's the Army, the Marines, one of the branches of service. I think it's the Marines. The saying, and I never knew this, but I said it for myself, and it turns out it's the same thing. And what it says is, if you have an appointment, if you're early, you're on time. If you're
Yeah.
on time, you're late.
Yeah. I like to be early.
Always be
Yeah.
there early.
Yeah.
It's better for you to be there early and wait for the person to join than the person joins and they're waiting for you.
Yep.
That's not a
Absolutely.
good thing. Even if it's
Absolutely.
a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, it doesn't have to be an hour. Could 1, 2, 3 minutes. Be there early. Because
Yeah.
if the person shows up early and you're there, you look like a hero.
Yep.
Even if you showed up right on time, which again, I don't think it should be earlier, but even if you show up right on time, at least you're on time.
Yeah.
Don't be late. Would you be late to a job interview? If somebody came along and said, be in front of my doorstep at 1 o'clock and I'll give you a gift, would you be late?
I'm
No.
there 10 of, at least 10 of.
So,
Yep.
so why are you doing that to somebody else? You don't
Right.
know who you're talking to, what they can help do for you, your personal, your business. You don't know.
Yeah.
Give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yep. You got it. What a
That's my
great
thing.
conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's a great
Love it.
conversation.
Yeah. Time
Yeah.
management. It's a tough one. It is. It's a tough
Yeah.
one. And if you can manage your time, you can be successful. You know?
You can. You
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
And like you said early on in this conversation, um, the wealthy have staffs, but all those staff have things to do at certain times to get it done. And
And
the person on top is just monitoring. They're
yeah.
not doing the work, but they're monitoring.
Yeah. And I
That's
wanted to
all.
mention, yeah, and I wanted to mention, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, but I wanted to mention real fast that, I wanted to make sure that I preface what I said about, being mad at these people who have the same time and are successful.
Hmm.
They started the same way we do,
Right.
single, by themselves, building a business.
Hmm.
They figured out how to get that time to other people so they can keep managing and keep moving and growing their
Correct.
business. And
Correct.
that's something that we have to do ourselves to grow our business, figure it out.
And it may mean if you have a business, it may mean might have to pay somebody a little more. You may have to give them a small piece of the business. So that's their incentive to do things.
Yeah.
Again, there's no right or wrong answer here.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of what it comes down to, and who was it Bill Gates? I think it was Bill Gates. And I forget what the numbers are, but it was like thousands of people listened to him and came down and down and down and down. And it turned out like 83 people believed in him enough that they followed him to build Microsoft, or what turned out to be Microsoft. So if people believe in you and trust you, they'll follow you. Doesn't mean you have to give them compensation or extra compensation up front. The belief, the trust, the knowing that they're part of a bigger movement is enough to spur a lot of people to help you. And they'll
Yeah.
wait for something down the road when you get big
Yeah.
that
Absolutely.
much you better deliver.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Steve, thanks again for coming on.
No,
It's been
my pleasure.
another great Friday for a podcast because
It's 4 o'clock somewhere.
you got it, man.
I,
Absolutely. Steve, thanks a lot. It's been a
my
great
pleasure, Chuck.
interview. Another great episode, man.
Hope it was.
We'll chat
Absolutely.
soon, man.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, buddy.
You got it. Take care. Bye.
You've been watching the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent. Thanks for watching.